She looked at you, smiled. For a second, you thought there was something there. Maybe she laughed a little longer than everyone else. Maybe she replied to your messages almost instantly. Maybe she even liked your old Instagram photos out of nowhere. So you finally decided to make your move. You started texting more. You became more available. You tried harder to impress her. And then, something changed. Her replies became shorter. She stopped starting conversations. She viewed your stories but never reacted. Eventually, she left your last message on read. You replayed every conversation in your head, wondering what went wrong. Did you say the wrong thing? Was another guy involved? Or was she simply never interested? Here's the surprising truth. Most people believe attraction is something you earn by trying harder. Psychology suggests something almost completely different. Attraction isn't created through persuasion. It's often created through perception. And the harder you try to force it, the less attractive you become. But before we dive in, take a second to subscribe, because YouTube rarely shows the same videos twice, and if this video helps you understand people a little better, there's a good chance we may never cross paths again. Now, let's uncover what's really happening. The title of this video promises something almost impossible: how to attract any woman even if she isn't interested. But there's an important distinction. No ethical psychological strategy can guarantee that every individual will become romantically interested. Human attraction isn't mind control. Every person has autonomy, preferences, and boundaries. What you can do is become significantly more attractive to many people by changing how you show up. And that changes far more than most people realize. This is where most people make the biggest mistake. They assume attraction begins with effort, so they send longer texts, buy expensive gifts, constantly compliment her, reply within seconds, rearrange their schedules. They think they're demonstrating commitment, but often they're communicating something else entirely: neediness. Neediness isn't about wanting someone. We all want connection. Neediness is quietly saying, "My happiness depends on whether you choose me." And people sense that long before it's ever spoken aloud. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman explained that our brains constantly make fast judgments based on subtle signals rather than careful analysis. Confidence, emotional stability, and social value are often inferred in seconds. That's why someone who barely says anything can sometimes appear more attractive than someone trying desperately to impress everyone in the room. But here's what almost nobody realizes. Confidence isn't loud, it's calm. It doesn't chase attention because it doesn't need proof that it's valuable. Think about two different people at a party. One desperately tries to make everyone laugh. He constantly checks whether people are enjoying his jokes. The other listens carefully, smiles naturally, speaks only when he has something meaningful to add, and isn't afraid of silence. Surprisingly, people often become more curious about the second person. Curiosity is one of attraction's strongest allies. Researcher Helen Fisher has spent decades studying romantic attraction. One fascinating observation is that novelty and uncertainty activate parts of the brain associated with motivation and reward. That's one reason why constant predictability can reduce excitement, while healthy mystery often keeps attention alive. Notice the word healthy. Mystery doesn't mean playing manipulative games or pretending not to care. It means having a complete life that doesn't revolve around someone you've only recently met. Imagine you start talking to someone through a dating app. Instead of spending every waking hour waiting for notifications, you continue pursuing your career, hobbies, friendships, fitness, and personal goals. Suddenly, your responses aren't delayed because you're pretending. They're delayed because you're genuinely busy living. That difference is impossible to fake forever, and it changes everything. Now let's talk about social media. Instagram and TikTok have quietly transformed modern attraction. We constantly compare ourselves with carefully edited versions of other people's lives. It creates an illusion that everyone has endless romantic options except us. So people overcompensate. They double text. They panic after being left on red. They overanalyze every emoji. They assume silence means rejection. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Life is far more complicated than most people think. This is where emotional intelligence becomes incredibly attractive. Instead of reacting impulsively, emotionally intelligent people become curious. They recognize that another person's behavior may reflect stress, career pressure, family issues, emotional burnout, or incompatible priorities rather than personal rejection. That emotional stability creates safety, and safety is deeply attractive. Relationship researcher Sue Johnson discovered something profound while studying emotional bonds. People don't simply fall for appearances. They develop lasting attraction through emotional responsiveness, trust, and the feeling that someone understands them without judgment. Notice what isn't on that list. Perfect looks, perfect money, perfect status. Those things may capture attention. They rarely sustain connection by themselves. Then something unexpected happens. Many men become obsessed with becoming attractive to one specific woman, while neglecting becoming attractive as a person. Those are completely different goals. One depends on another person's approval. The other depends on your own growth. And psychology consistently favors the second approach. Consider someone who joins the gym only because one woman rejected him. Compare that with someone who trains because he wants better health, discipline, and confidence. The physical changes might look similar. The mindset feels completely different. People notice authenticity. They always have. This is also why pretending to be someone you're not usually fails. Eventually, the mask slips. The expensive lifestyle isn't sustainable. The fake confidence disappears under pressure. The rehearsed personality becomes exhausting. Real confidence is remarkably simple. You know your values. You respect yourself. You respect others. You don't need constant validation. That quiet certainty becomes magnetic. But here's where attraction becomes counterintuitive. One of the strongest signals of confidence is the willingness to accept rejection gracefully. Think about that. Someone declines your invitation. Instead of arguing, instead of convincing, instead of asking why, you smile. You wish them well, and you move forward. That response communicates something incredibly powerful. My self-worth doesn't disappear because one person said no. Ironically, that's often more attractive than anything you could have said to persuade them otherwise. Here's what makes this bigger than just one relationship. At its core, attraction is really about identity. Many people enter dating believing they're incomplete until someone chooses them. So every text message becomes a test. Every delayed reply becomes evidence they're not enough. Every situationship becomes a desperate attempt to earn love. But healthy attraction works differently. John Gottman's decades of relationship research found that successful couples aren't those who never experience conflict. They're the ones who consistently build respect, trust, and emotional connection over time. Notice that attraction doesn't disappear after the first date. It evolves. And what keeps relationships alive often has very little to do with what started them. This is also why attachment styles matter. Some people naturally become anxious when they sense distance. Others withdraw whenever intimacy increases. These patterns often begin long before any current relationship. So when someone ghosts you, the story may not actually be about you. It may reflect their own emotional habits, fears, or unresolved experiences. That wasn't necessarily rejection, it was psychology. Of course, sometimes someone simply isn't romantically interested. And that's okay. Not every connection is meant to happen. Trying to force chemistry usually destroys whatever possibility existed. Arthur Aron's famous work on closeness showed that meaningful connection grows through mutual openness and shared experiences, not through persuasion alone. You can't build intimacy by convincing someone. You build it together. And only if both people genuinely want to. Modern dating often encourages the opposite mindset. Endless dating apps create the illusion that someone better is always one swipe away. Social validation becomes addictive. People chase attention instead of connection. Yet many report feeling lonelier than ever. That's because attention and intimacy are not the same thing. Thousands of followers can't replace one emotionally safe relationship. Hundreds of likes can't replace genuine understanding. Voice notes, video calls, and daily texts don't automatically create closeness if vulnerability is missing. Researcher Brené Brown has repeatedly emphasized that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the birthplace of genuine connection. Ironically, people become more relatable when they stop trying to appear perfect. Perfection creates distance. Authenticity creates connection. Now, imagine two conversations. In the first, someone constantly talks about expensive vacations, luxury watches, and impressive achievements. In the second, someone shares meaningful stories, laughs at themselves occasionally, asks thoughtful questions, and genuinely listens. Which conversation would you remember tomorrow? Exactly. Because attraction isn't just about being interesting, it's about making people feel interesting too. Esther Perel often explains that desire grows where there is both connection and individuality. We want closeness, but we also admire people who maintain their own identity. That's why losing yourself inside a relationship rarely strengthens it. The healthiest relationships consist of two complete individuals choosing each other repeatedly, not two incomplete people trying to rescue one another. And most people never notice that. Here's another psychological twist. Scarcity increases perceived value. But healthy scarcity doesn't mean ignoring someone for 3 days just because a dating coach recommended it. It means your time genuinely matters, your priorities matter, your ambitions matter. When someone realizes your life has purpose beyond dating, attraction often grows naturally. Because purpose itself is attractive, not because it impresses others, because it changes you. Career goals, fitness, creativity, friendships, learning, service. These things quietly shape your confidence from the inside out, and people notice that long before you ever mention them. So if you're wondering how to attract a woman who currently isn't interested, perhaps the better question is this. How do you become someone whose presence naturally creates curiosity, comfort, and respect? That answer doesn't involve manipulation. It involves growth. Growth changes posture. Growth changes conversations. Growth changes emotional reactions. Growth changes standards. Eventually, it even changes the people you're attracted to, because confidence begins filtering your choices as much as it influences theirs. So here's the bigger picture. Remember the story from the beginning? The unread messages, the fading conversations, the confusion that made you question yourself. Sometimes the answer isn't that you weren't enough. Sometimes you simply approached attraction backwards. Real attraction isn't built by chasing someone until they finally notice you. It's built by becoming emotionally secure enough that your value isn't dependent on any single person's approval. Some people still won't be interested, and that's perfectly normal. Others may begin seeing qualities they never noticed before. But the greatest reward isn't attracting more people. It's becoming someone who no longer needs to force what should happen naturally. Because the most attractive people in the room usually aren't the loudest. They aren't the richest. They aren't desperately trying to prove themselves. They're simply comfortable being exactly who they are. And that quiet confidence speaks louder than words ever could. If this helped you understand relationships a little better, subscribe and join us. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, keep learning what really drives human connection.